Wouldn't you love to have a house full of peace? I know as parents, we're always striving to get rid of the chaos and bring more peace into the home. But having kids is naturally chaotic and there's so much beauty about that. But a big part of having peace in our home is creating healthy habits. And I think that a lot of times that's one of the biggest difficulties as parents is to consistently have habits to help our home and our lives to be more organized and therefore more peaceful. And especially difficult when you're inviting kids into that. But today we want to introduce you to somebody who does that on a daily basis. So today we're going to bring on Tara Bremer. She's the CEO of House Peace, and she's going to talk to us about how to help our kids and ourselves as parents to create these healthy habits that will help us have homes full of peace. And she's going to talk specifically about the three-legged stool that we can all use to help our kids today start getting these healthy habits to help do things like clean their room, put up their backpacks and shoes after school, to have a cleaner, more organized kitchen space, and really just start bringing in more of this peace that we all desire in our homes. So if you could take a moment to pause and to rate and review the podcast. We love it when you put the 5 stars on there in the comments. That's always so helpful to us and encouraging to us. And when you share it with other people, because that just helps more and more people know about the work we're doing here. And we greatly appreciate you helping us out with that. So if you have a pen and paper and want to take some notes, this is a great opportunity to do that. Or if you're just driving, get ready to learn about how to create a house filled with peace.
Welcome to the Art of Raising Humans.
The Art of Raising Humans is a podcast designed to support, equip, and encourage parents on how to create long-lasting, deeply connected relationships with their kids that's free from fear and shame. Come join us on the journey. Hello and welcome to The Art of Raising Humans. I'm Kyle.
Hi there, I'm Sarah.
And Sarah, a big thing we hear from a lot of parents is a desire to have peace in their home.
Yeah.
Like they're tired of the chaos. They're tired of just everything being disorganized, right? And a lot of that comes down to building habits, healthy habits in our home. And so we're really excited to have a guest on today to talk about a subject we've never discussed before on the podcast, but is very dear to our hearts because we think habits are really important because habits...
It's something we're very intentional about. We've never talked about.
Well, habits
so
form...
I'm excited.
Yeah, they form character. They form all that kind of stuff. So without further ado, we want to say welcome, Tara.
Hi.
And so Tara Bremer is the CEO and founder of the House of Peace. And you love to talk about bringing peace into homes, right? And this is what you do for a living.
Let me give a little correction. It's house peace. There's no of in there.
Okay, that's good. Okay, what's the difference?
Well, a house of peace is usually like a Buddhist meditation center or something. I'm not kidding. This is a common mistake. People will write checks to House of Peace. Thankfully, they still go through. But the reason I named my business House Peace is because I want to signify, I can't make your home, the heart of the home better, but I can make your house better, which will then impact the home. So we can move towards peace that will impact hearts and the home later. I do the house.
Yeah, no, that's great. Well, and how did you get into this? Well, how did you get passionate about it? Why did you start going down this journey? I know you started in 2013. What prompted all that?
Well, my background's in counseling and psychology, and I was kind of pursuing a lifetime career in that. I wanted to be a professor. I wanted to have a client caseload. But then I unexpectedly got pregnant after 8 years of marriage. And so I was over the moon to be a mom. I decided to be a stay-at-home mom. And once I left therapy, I didn't go back. I mean, I go back for myself.
Of course. Yeah.
I raised kids 100% of the time until my third child came home. So my boys are my biological sons, and I had them first. And then my daughter, we adopted her at 19 months. And that was in 2013.
Yeah.
And I had been blogging about home organization. It was kind of a creative outlet for me because mothering in those early years was so hard for me. I just found it to be stressful to not know what was coming next, what temper tantrum is coming, what
Yes.
blowout is coming. And I needed to have what I call a sense of healthy control. And so I was like just organizing my house on my own, blogging about it, taking pictures. And then my daughter came home and turns out becoming a mom of 3 with an instant toddler is hard. And we have all the adoption, considerations in there as well. So someone said to me from my Bible study, they're like, hey, you should start a business. I bet people would pay you to do what you do. And I'm like, you know what? They probably would. So that about 6 months after she came home, I named the business, got a Facebook page up, and I started marketing specifically to moms, Birmingham, which is where I live, Birmingham moms who have adopted from China.
Oh my goodness.
I was in that group. And so what's funny is they hired me, and so many of them are still my clients, still my friends. So yeah, I wanted a job to help me feel, again, that kind of healthy sense of control and to have a payoff. Like mothering is thankless. No toddler is like, thank you, mommy, for, all the hard work you do. They're just not. And I think, the intrinsic rewards of being a mom are there. You get the snuggles, you get the, the baby smell, you get all that. But I needed a little more. So turns out someone paying me is a nice reward for saying thank you for what you done. So, and honestly, I love it. I love making a difference. It's no exaggeration to say that people say, wow, when house pieces come, my life has changed. And I'm like, all I want is for you to have a better situation in your house.
Yeah. Yeah.
I so remember those days. I'm still in them a little bit, but especially when they're young, it's constant chaos in some way, even if it's just emotional, even if it's someone's having a tantrum and you are looking for that. I remember just feeling like I'd walk through the house and my brain would take mental note of, oh, you left your sippy cup there. Oh, so-and-so's favorite toy is laying on the floor there. They're going to not know where that is later. And, just everything in the piles of the food and all the stuff. And I love how you said that kind of sense of control is like, there's so much that you are just there. You're responding to the next need and all the time, and you don't know what's going to hit you. So it gives you a little space of organization, a little space of, so I would can you tell more about that? To me, there's a big relationship between all that chaos and the level of stress we're feeling, the level of anxiety. We're already in a really hard place in life, having kids and doing all the things I'm running around now to different things and organizing all of that. So what does it mean to say, okay, I'm going to prioritize this organization? How does that bring peace, or what's the relationship there to our minds?
I'm sure you probably have heard this stat that as clutter rises, women's cortisol level rises. And it's not the same for men. And it's unclear in the study that found this if that's because just we still have a lot of traditional gender roles. And women typically are the ones in charge of the house. So like you were saying, I related to that so much about like the sippy cup and the this and the that. It's like, I still do it. And my kids are teenagers, 13, 15, 19. I still see stuff and I'm like, that's something I have to do. That's a chore I have to do. That's something I got to take care of. Oh, I got to get to this. And I had undiagnosed anxiety as a young mother. And I didn't know how to have like better self-talk. And even still, it's a battle. Like I have this concept that I use a lot with my clients and on social media and stuff called chaos resilience. Because instead of us as mothers and fathers looking at, I'm gonna be honest, I don't know if dads look at it the same. I just don't. But like instead of us saying, there's something I gotta do, oh my gosh, when am I gonna do this? Instead, it's, oh yeah, that needs to return to the system. And I will have time when I have the day off on Saturday, or I will, you know what I mean? Like chaos will happen. It just will, especially with children, especially in this fast-paced life that we live. Messes are going to happen. For example, my son moved back from college this weekend And this is my office that he shares with me. He's got a desk and everything. And this is like his space. So all the entire contents of his dorm room was all over the office. And I could be stressed about that, but I just left it. I had my house cleaned yesterday. And I just said to the lady who cleans our house, I said, just don't even go in there. Like, I wasn't going to just stress and be like, oh my gosh, like I got to get this. Yeah. I knew that the resilience would happen. And it happened today because my son's been working for 2 days to unload all these things. And then I helped him with the last little bit, knowing that I was going to have this podcast interview, knowing that I wanted the background to be tidy. And so I didn't have to be like, oh, that's a man to do. It's more like, I will get to this when the time is right.
Yeah. But I love that term, chaos resilience.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And I remember that, Tara, early on. I was telling Sarah before we got on this interview, I remember how her and we were both a really good fit when it came to being organized, clean. We had good habits. We both.
And we had years before we even had kids. Bro, just that had been real streamlined. He went to work, I went to work. We had took care, like everything was tidy.
And then it did seem like when the kids came along, maybe I wasn't as resilient as I thought. It just seemed like things were not where I expected them to be.
The kids are just the biggest monkey wrenches ever.
I know. No, I'm saying, Sarah, there's been so many especially even as I've gotten older, and now they can sometimes use the tools I have, and they go like, where is my screwdriver? Like, what is happening? Where's this thing going?
Please,
I'm like,
do not get me started, because the kids will take stuff from my organizing kit, and I'm like, on the job, I'm like, where's my scissors that are specifically for my job?
Well, and even I loved in just our initial conversation before we got on here is just talking about habits, because I told the kids, like, a habit I have to make sure I know where everything is, especially the tools, is if I get something out of the toolbox, I always leave the lid to the toolbox open. So that reminds me that I need to bring it back and put it back. So
there's your
I tell
cue.
the kids, if you get the hammer out or you get the screwdriver, I don't mind you using them, but leave the lid open so you remember to put it back, And I just tell them that's just a habit I had to form, not because I'm just super smart, but because I kept forgetting to put things back.
That's right.
And then I would feel more stressed and I would have less peace because I'm trying to do a simple home improvement project and I can't find this dumb tool,
Right.
It's so if you could talk about the importance of that, because I think too often we just don't think about how we're forming these habits in ourselves and in our kids to bring about the peace we want in our homes.
Absolutely. I love that you said that about the tools. That's a perfect example of the habit formation, the three legs of the stool, I guess. We need the cue that leads to the behavior that leads to the reward. So in this case, your cue is the lid stays up. That reminds you. The behavior is I go put this screwdriver back. The reward is your stuff is where you expect it to be next time.
Yes. Well, and I would say the reward is like peace of mind that next time I need that thing, it's there. And I love that you pointed. So you said the cue, right?
Yes.
You said then what's the next one?
Behavior,
and then the reward. So the cue, the behavior, the reward. So thinking of those three things, man, that's awesome that I did that without even knowing it.
No, I know. It's great. Total softball. Thank you. Because this has been on my mind, especially this week. I'm helping a mom in her home. She's got 2 young kids, 5 and 6, married. She's a business owner, self-described as ADHD. And so our houses also inform us because they use their front door to come into the house from the car. They do have a garage, but it's way tucked around and it's just super inconvenient. So they come in through the front door. They have a gorgeous, beautiful, renovated, historic home. There ain't no place to put the shoes and the backpacks when they come in the house. And so what ends up happening is the stuff just gets dumped in her office, which is right there by the front door. And so that's unmanageable because what I worked on her office on Monday, and what would happen is clothes, skincare, workout, yoga blocks, whatever would end up in her office. And then my guess is, I don't know for sure because I haven't dug through the rest of her house, but my guess is she would repeat buy things because she's not expecting these things to be in the office. So she forgets that they're in there because you've got piles. We don't know what's in the piles. So we are trying to establish for her a new habit. And what we're going to do is we're going to walk past the office, walk past the stairs to the, there's a doorway to the basement. Okay. And the basement is a gorgeous, fully, like it's not the dungeon. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
And even the stairway down to the basement is beautiful. So what we're going to do is we're going to install hooks. We're going to be able to throw hats, coats, backpacks, because it's really tall. It's probably like 10 foot tall. And then at the bottom of the stairs, we're going to install shelves. It's not even the bottom. It's a landing. It's a very wide landing. Okay. So you see how we're having to put these puzzle pieces together, ages of the kids, the design of the home, where the driveway is, the ADHD that's going on. So we're going to install shelves on that landing, and that's where the shoes are going to go. Now, I know what people are going to say. They're like, well, the kids, I'm like, the kids can walk 10 steps. They can. Walk past that office and go down here. I have so many people who are like, well, but I use this all the time. I need it within arm's reach. I'm like, you don't. You can bend over and get your lotion out of the drawer instead of having it on the counter with 50 other things. So I want to encourage people that if this thing makes sense, don't let these silly obstacles well, it's too far. It's not too far. So with her, what I want to do is create a queue. And literally all I mean is write on a piece of paper, shoes go here. And, tape it on the door to the basement. I said it doesn't have to be cute. It doesn't have to be laminated. All we need is for that to be there for a little while until the habit is established. So the cue is shoes go here. Kids are going to open the door. They're going to put their things in there. And the reward is there's not a pile of shoes. We know where our shoes are. We know where the backpacks are. And we walk into the house with this clear chest, you just can breathe and move. And once the habit's established, then we throw the ugly sign away. We don't care. So I did that for a long time in my whole house because I felt like my house was being overrun by my own kids. I don't know if that sounds familiar to anybody, but I felt like we were doing things in certain rooms that I didn't want to happen in there. I didn't want forts in my living room. I know what some of y'all's listeners are going to say, like, she's so mean. No, I'm not. My house has an extra loft that we can do
it's
all
great for that. Yes.
That's right. And it's upstairs. And I know developmentally, children want to be in the same room as their parents until a certain age, but my kids weren't. So I put signs on the light switches in all rooms of my house. Here's what happens in the living room. Here's what happens in this room. And once we establish that, done. We're done.
Yeah. What I think is amazing, what you're pointing out, and I think it's so true. When I walk in, when I've done that work, it feels like it's a lot at the time, but before you realize that you're down the road and you think, why did I ever do it the other way? It just becomes that. You're not even thinking about it. You're just walking down the hall, putting your shoes on the little shelf. And it just, to make the transition from dropping them at the door to down the hall feels massive. And then when you've done it, you think, that wasn't that. And it feels so great. The payoff is so amazing to walk in and the space is beautiful. And like you said, you just feel open and light when you've done that effort.
Well, it sounds like you're doing a lot of visual cues to be able to see the cue. I think, would you also agree, Tara, another way to do that, especially with teenagers, I'm thinking something we did with our oldest daughter, cleaning the room was a constant kind of, it just kept building up. It would overwhelm her.
And she'd feel
and then it wouldn't get done. And so it was like, I said to her, which I was saying, hey, would it help if once a week I came in your room and we worked on this together? And she said something interesting. She said, no, I don't think once a week is enough. I think by the end of the week, it's too overwhelming. There's too much stuff piled up. So I said, then what would you want to do? She said, I'd like to do it daily. Could we just set a reminder on the phone every evening for you to remind me to put the clothes away, and then I will do it, and then we can come down and we'll watch a show or do something like that, right?
Okay, I love that.
Yeah. Yes. So I thought that was interesting that she wanted to do it every day rather than once a week, because I assumed she would think that's too much, but instead she said it's too little.
She wanted the bite size, because even by the end of the week, she had this insight that even by then it was already too overwhelming. And the resistance would build up, and then she'd feel like she didn't know where to start.
Yeah. So it was almost
that's some real wisdom from a kid. How old is she?
At that time, she was like 14.
That's
And
amazing.
it was neat, Tara, it was at first the cue was me or Sarah physically coming up there and saying, "Hey, how's the room?" And then that went on for a few weeks. Then the next one was like, "Hey, is the room done? Hey, I'm working on it now." And then it was just like the reminder. And then pretty soon it was like, I stopped asking and I'd just be like, "Sarah, is the room good?" She's like, "Yeah." When I go up and say goodnight to her, it seems like everything's put away.
That's amazing.
And so it was like, but we thought if we could just do this for a few months and just be intentional, let's put it on the calendar. And it's going to be a little work on our part, which at first I think that's what a lot of parents are like, man, just more work. And it was, but the payoff is now she's got the habit.
Yes, absolutely. And I think, like with my daughter, her room is a disaster currently. And she also feels like this is too much. So sometimes I'll do body doubling, which is what you were suggesting at first with your daughter, and just sit in there, and I might, hang some clothes with her or something. But even just me being in there creates this like appointment, this is what we're here doing. And I do like that. I'm big on alarms and reminders. Yeah. I think that I'm going to take a cue from you.
Okay.
And I think I'm going to ask my daughter, she's 13, like what can I do? How can we partner to keep this room going? Because again, I had my house cleaned. I couldn't go in her room because there was no point. There was just stuff all over the floor.
Yeah. Well, and even in that, we even asked her, like, what does she want that cue to be? She picked the alarm on the phone. Who do you want to come up and check? Me or mom, right? And so then she's like, "Dad, I'd like you to go and check on it." So, it was like all these things were things that she was invited into creating the cue for herself. I'm using your words there to then inspire the behavior. And then it helped me because I think she chose me because a lot of the conflict had been with me coming up. Come on, what's up with the room? Why wasn't I getting this done yet? And so she wanted to shift that with me. And then I could show her that I could do it. I could come up and just be like, "Hey, how's it going? You need help with this?" Yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing. And I think too, like the alarms and the cues and the reminders of any kind, it's just helpful to know that like we're all normal here. Like humans are forgetful. This is why if you're a person of faith, you go back to church every week because we've already forgotten. We've already forgotten what it is that we believe that, and we got to keep being reminded. So, a lot of times cues aren't even for the kids. Sometimes they're just for us because I have forgotten what I decided. I decided that this is where the shoes are going to go, but then we didn't do it and I forgot. And then I'm like, why didn't I do that? And that's, I'm like workshopping a concept right now about labels. Like when you organize, we label everything. And in a way, a cue is a visual label that, or an auditory or whatever. I got to play with that, but we are forgetful. And,
and I love what you're saying there is that we're all human. And that I think so many times we think we're just so good. All our habits come easy. And we're not that patient and understanding that in the peace we're wanting in our home, it's going to have to take some intentional, consistent work to join forces together with the kid to say, let's form these habits together. Because I'm telling you, I remember, Tara, I was not taught how to form these habits as a kid. I was typically threatened to, like, if you don't get your room done, you're going to get spanked or you're going to get grounded or something like that. Right. So you know what I did? Like, seriously, as a kid, I never slept underneath my covers. I always slept on top of my covers with a blanket because I never wanted to have to make my bed.
Bless
and so just silly,
that heart.
Yeah. So that's the kind of stuff I would do because I didn't want to mess up my bed and then get yelled at.
I think you need to tell them.
So the difference is, and what we're trying to do is, instead of the threatening to just get it done to make me happy or somehow feel the peace that your room is done, instead I can own the fact that we're always trying to get healthier habits. We're always trying to eat healthier, exercise better, talk better, manage our feelings better, whatever it is. And those habits take consistent effort that we have to agree upon, that we're in on this journey together. And I want my kids to have a healthy relationship with their room. And so in kind of wrapping up this story, Tara, I'll tell you, the reason why I became a clean person with my room wasn't because of what my parents did. It was quite the opposite. My brother and I shared a room in college. And I remember my brother wanted to keep the dorm room clean. And so I was kind of frustrated with my brother, like, you're not my parent. You're not my mom or dad. And my brother said, what kind of husband do you want to be? Wow. Someday, do you want to be a husband that knows how to clean his room? Or do you want your wife cleaning it for you?
Wow.
He's like, man, that starts today, Kyle. That starts today. So you and I are going to own and take care of our room so we can be husbands who our wives aren't having to do that for us.
Wow. Kudos to him. That's amazing big brother energy right there. Listen, sidebar. I was at a hotel picking up my son from college, and there was a man, you know how a lot of hotels have the waffle makers, like make your own. There was a man who was absolutely frozen. He did not know what to do. And a young man was like, "Do you need help?" You know, this guy was like in his 50s and he didn't know how to do anything. And his wife comes up and she's got this like Long Island accent. She's like, "Hey, it's because I make his breakfast every day." He didn't know how to spray it. He didn't know how to do whatever. So, you know, I think you're right. Like, we are teaching our children how to be adults. We aren't raising children, we're raising adults. Whatever we can do to support that. And I just love the idea that this can be a connecting thing with you and your daughter. You know, like, it's a win. We want to have wins with our kids, because otherwise we're just like, don't do this, don't do that, you know? One other thing I want to come back to is when I was talking about like walking past the office and going to the actual landing zone, I think that we can learn some lessons from teachers. Think about a kindergarten classroom. Think about Mr. Rogers. Think about, you know, how things work. These teachers know early childhood development. They know what kids can do. And the kids all have they immediately start with the habits. Like, this is where the backpack goes. We are going to sing with mom when this goes. So if a teacher can do it, we can do it. We need to learn. But we got this. We are partnering with our kids and raising adults.
So, okay. So what I go to is, I know at times I have felt this, I think it's pretty normal, where you think, in my head as the mom, I have a lot already going on. And then I think I know all the areas we need to be building habits or organizing or something. And where do I start? Because that already feels overwhelming. So what do you do if you walk into a home and it's just
what's the first
everywhere needs help, or it feels like everywhere?
I think that the best thing to do is, well, I always ask my client, what hurts the most? What makes you the maddest? Where's your rage? Let's follow the rage. That's good.
Follow the rage. I like that. I can do that.
I love that. What hurts the worst? What's my biggest stress, or what is overwhelming me in my everyday? That's good.
Well, I'm helping a client right now. Sometimes we help hoarders. We kind of do the gamut from hoarders to mid-range all the way up to high end. And the house is pretty buried. And you immediately when you walk in, like, the outside looks great, it's beautiful, but when you walk in, it's piles and piles and piles. And so I think that the family has been like, we don't know where to start. But when I, you know, walk in and ask her, you know, what makes you the maddest? And she says, well, that kitchen island has been covered up for a couple years. Let's do the kitchen island. That makes the most sense to me. It's where you're cooking every day. And so we just start pulling stuff off, you know? So I say, you know, if every morning you're like, where's my keys?
That's right.
And you're just so mad, then maybe start with your entryway. Maybe start with your laundry room, you know, whatever's making you the maddest.
Follow the rage. I like that. Or like you said, where does it hurt the most? You know, I think Sarah resonates with that. I like follow the rage. Where's the screwdriver? No, that's probably like that's where I've bought way too many screwdrivers, because I'm just like, where has it gone again, guys? Like, we need to get this habit in place.
Hey, what if we are multiple screwdrivers? Like, I don't know if you have a fancy one. I've got one I really like. It's ratcheting, you know, and it's got the little.
Ooh, that does sound cool. I don't have that.
It's like $20. Get more than one, and put an actual label from the label maker on it that says, this is toolbox, kitchen drawer, wherever you keep them. And then I would do that. Maybe even make them a different color, like get a blue one and get a red one.
That's a great idea. Once again, a visual cue for them to remember that's where that one goes. And then we know when I find one, I know which one's missing too. I'm oh, that one doesn't go in that drawer. It goes in the other place. You guys put it in the wrong place. What I wanted to ask you one more question. I love what Sarah was saying there about that first step, but one more question I was thinking of: what is loss has the biggest obstacle that you run into when people are reluctant to change? What is their kind of like, oh no, it's too hard, I can't do that? Well, what is kind of the common things that you run into when you're like, if you just did this, it would bring so much more peace? But
oh gosh. I think that a common obstacle is ADHD, first of all.
Okay.
I think, I don't know. It really just depends on the person. By the time people get to us, because we are a service business, they're ready. They are like, I don't know where to start, but I'm pretty sure you do. And so but on your own, what I usually tell people is they really do need a body double, even if you're not, ADHD, it just helps so much. I'm like, if you're having trouble in your home, you can't afford to hire out, get a trusted friend. And I'm not talking about hoarding. I'm talking about normal clutter. Like maybe you've got a closet where you can't walk in because there's just crap all over the floor. So get your friend, make it an event, DoorDash some special coffee. Put your phone on airplane mode. We are not checking the dryer. We are not checking email. We are there for the power of this appointment with a friend. I don't really think you should do it with your mom. I don't think you should do it with your sister. I think it needs to be someone a little bit more removed. And she doesn't even necessarily have to be doing anything. Maybe she can help you hang or something. But like just her sitting in there with you, it's creating this space where we know this is what we're doing. And then when we're done, maybe we do give ourselves a little reward. Maybe we go get a salad, somewhere or pizza. I don't care. Make it a whole thing. And you'd be surprised how much you can get done. I think people are just very distracted.
Yes. That's so good. So I love that body doubling. We've never used that term before, but I really think that would be helpful. Lots of times when I'm talking to parents about how to change these habits, they feel almost like if they're in the room, then they're enabling the kid somehow to be more codependent or something. And I'm like, no, the kid just prefers you being in there. I mean, we know our daughter, the reason why this works is she's probably going to need to do that in college. I know I did. Is sometimes when there was homework that needed to be done or studying, it was just always more fun to go do it with somebody else, even if they weren't even doing the same thing. They were just sitting there reading a book while you studied.
That's right.
It just helped you because we know through just the research that some of this stuff does feel like suffering, and suffering is meant to be done with others. It's not meant to be done on your own.
We can suffer more.
If you're suffering on your own, you're going to give up quicker. But if someone is co-suffering with you, which is where the word compassion comes from, it comes from suffering with you. When somebody has the compassion, the body double with you, to suffer with you in it, you can endure the suffering at least twice as long.
That's beautiful. That is so well said. And I use the word compassion in our work a lot. We are compassionate organizers. We're going to take into account all these things. And it really does feel very personal. We're digging in people's nightstands, for Pete's sake. And so we're there to normalize, we're there to body double, and to get it done. So it's really, there's a lot of puzzle pieces in our work, and I love it. I'm just obsessed with it. But I love this co-suffering, compassion. No, that's great. You need to write a book.
Yes. Well, I love that. We love the word co-creating too. So when you're doing the compassion, you're suffering with, and then you're co-creating with that friend, like you're saying, a different ending to that story. And so it's just so cool. It's like you're inviting that friend into that narrative that this has been a lone battle that you've had to fight. This is something you had to just suffer alone. And now that friend's like, no, I'll be with it in you, and I'll be in this with you. And then now you have the power to change the story. So it's awesome. So what I'm taking from this, Tara, is I love the steps that I think every listener can understand: the habits of creating the cue, and then the behavior that cue is gonna elicit, and then that reward that's gonna come of, like you said, it's not like this physical reward, it's this intrinsic reward of, I know where that is. I no longer have to worry about that, which is such a way to bring peace to your heart, to your family. And how cool is that if you're intentional about modeling this and inviting the kids into that, I mean, then you have these kids who grow up who not only do they already have healthy habits, but they can recognize unhealthy ones, and they know the steps to then create new ones. And they don't have to feel ashamed to say, I need a body double.
That's
like,
right.
I love, like, that could be like a common thing in a family. Like, I need a body double.
Yeah.
Hey,
anybody available?
Well, like I could say to my daughter, "Hey, did you pick up the dog poop?" And she could say, "I need a body double. Can somebody go with me while I go pick up the dog poop?" It makes it a lot easier to do that.
We're scaffolding their brains. Like they're going to get there where they can pick up the poop by themselves. They will, you know?
Yeah. So, hey, where could our audience find out more about you, about the house piece, not the house of peace, but how could they find more about what you're doing and get involved with the work if they're interested in finding more or reaching out to you?
I have a very good newsletter. So my website is housepeace.net. Okay. If you go to housepeace.com, it is a Japanese architecture firm. So don't go there. You won't be able to read it unless you speak Japanese. So that's my website, and you can sign up for my newsletter on a pop-up there. Comes out every 2 weeks, and I give tips and stories and resources. But a lot of fun stuff happens on Instagram. It's house.peace is my handle, and I've got so many resources there, just funny stuff or tips sometimes, and also just lots of normalizing. But that's a really fun place. Me personally, my Instagram is Tara B. Bremer, and I talk about all the things, parenting and whatever there as well.
Yeah, that's great. Well, we appreciate you so much for coming on and sharing this information with our listeners. And I think it's a great time. This is going to drop over the summer. And so it'd be great for them to start putting some of these in place over the summer before the school year starts, to be thinking about, new school year's happening. What cues and habits do I want to put in place so I can just follow the rage. Just follow the rage when that school starts. What am I getting most upset about? How do I then create those better habits? So we appreciate you taking the time to come on with the audience and giving this great information, this great wisdom.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, you're welcome. The Art of Raising Humans podcast should not be considered or used as counseling, but for educational purposes only.